I think you have a new ad that hit the airwaves yesterday called 3 Times.
Absolutely.
Talking a little bit about the platform and what the DNC said about putting God back in the party. What is your ad about? Because it is taking a little bit of heat.
Well, I think I'm just telling the truth, and I think it's somewhat concerning and reprehensible that the issue about the status of recognizing Jerusalem as the rightful capital of the modern-day state of Israel was not included in the original platform, as well as words about God. And as we saw, they went through 3 different votes, and that was not a 2/3 majority positive vote, but they went ahead and rammed that on through. So many people, the pundits and the talking heads said that this was unbelievable and it was kind of a stupid thing. I think Paul Begala said on CNN. So I think we need to bring that to point that we've got an interesting problem here, especially last night when the president started talking about the unalienable rights, the words of Thomas Jefferson coming from the Creator, but yet they didn't want to have that in their platform.
Let's talk about the speech last night.
Sure.
I'm sure you watched it.
I listened.
I listened. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a nutshell, the president said that he had rescued the economy and, according to the New York Times, ushered in a recovery, and he claims that would be imperiled by the return of a Republican as president. What do you say to that?
Well, you can see right here, J.C., I took 8 pages of notes last night.
A lot of notes.
That's why I say you listen. The most important thing is that this has already been called the worst recovery in 40 years. When you make the comparative analysis where President Reagan was coming out of the recovery and this one, we have 1.5% GDP growth. With President Reagan, you had 7.1% GDP growth. Last night, the president talked really nothing about the debt that we have in this country, which, as you know, hit $16 trillion in the midst of this convention. So when I look at what his fiscal year 2013 budget plan talked about, $1.9 trillion, but it never balances. You have debt grows from $16 trillion to $26 trillion over the next 10 years, and it does not talk anything about protecting Medicare or Social Security. As a matter of fact, the deficits continue to stay at about $900 billion. And as you know, one of the things that the president said was that he was going to cut the deficit in half when he came in. Well, we've had 4 straight years, 1.42 trillion, 1.29, 1.3, and an estimation for $1.1 trillion deficits this year. So we are not out of the woods as far as this economy.
Anything you did agree with? Obviously, you wouldn't agree with anything he said. Did you agree with anything he did say?
Well, I will tell you, having served in the military for 22 years, we always need to take our hats off to our men and women who afford us the liberties and freedoms and democracy that we have. But when I look once again at some of the policies that have been coming out of this administration, you've had 68 to 71% of the casualties and death in Afghanistan under the president's watch. When the president criticized Mitt Romney for, quote unquote, seeing Russia as a new threat and kind of made a joke about it, well, it was just 3 weeks ago. We had a Russian attack submarine right in the Gulf of Mexico off of our coastal waters that went undetected for 2 months. And Vladimir Putin is talking about putting a naval base back in Cuba. So those are the type of fine points that, I hope people will do their due diligence and study and not just get caught up in the rhetoric.
Real quick, because we have limited time left. One thing you do have in common with the president, he wants another term, you want another term as well. It's getting pretty heated there with Patrick Murphy. You guys have agreed to at least one debate.
Yeah, I find it very interesting that, when I was a challenger, I wanted to debate the incumbent.
You wanted 4?
When I was a challenger, I wanted to debate the incumbent. But now, as an incumbent, I wanted 4, and you have a challenger that's running away. So obviously, he does not believe in the principles and values, I guess, that he stands for. He doesn't want to talk about the issues, which is important.
The ad that you're looking at there, it is using your own words. What do you think about it? It came under some fire.
Well, I think it is, unconscionable that you would take young kids and try to get them to talk about
your own words.
Those words that I use were very appropriate for the time that I use them, and I think that why would you take young kids that we're bankrupting their future and try to exploit them in a political ad? Stand up on your own.
Are you going to tone down the rhetoric at all, or continue?
I don't think I talk about rhetoric. I think I stand on principle, and I say what a lot of people out there are thinking.
Okay. All right. Congressman Alan West.
Thank you for joining us. We did have Patrick Murphy in the studio last week, and so interesting to hear the other side as always. Remember, CBS Television headquarters this election season. We